Deathblade is probably the most consistently strong finishing deck in the format. I mean, we see players like Rudy Bza and Todd Anderson play this deck a lot ever since basically Grand Prix Washington. Combining Deathrite Shaman with Stoneforge Mystic, it's just a very powerful deck, capable of doing some pretty powerful things, playing the most powerful spells in the format, and it has that right combination of fair cards as well as cards that can kind of exploit the unfair decks with Thoughtseize, Force of Will, etc.
It has really, really established itself as one of the premier decks in Legacy, and we are going to be underway here in our semifinals of our Season 1 Invitational. Derrick Sheets going to lead off here with the Tropical Island. Now we get to see what he's working with. You see there's a copy of Wasteland, there's a Spell Pierce, a Force of Will, a Misty Rainforest, Lilianaville, and a Stoneforge Mystic, it looks like. So, looks like he's got a pretty good hand here so far. Looking for a little bit of help in the mana department, but having a Force of Will along with a Spell Pierce and being able to deploy a Stoneforge Mystic is a really nice start.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he has a white mana. Is that a creeping
He's
target?
got I believe it's a Misty Rainforest. It may be a creeping target, but it's not fair to assume that he would play the creeping target on turn 1 because he does want to leave Spell Pierce.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure if maybe he wanted to just leave Spell Pierce up or not. But he does that. He does have a pretty good card here, a hand here against a combo deck. He basically drew all the good anti-combo cards, which kind of difficult thing with Esper Deathblade Game 1 is that sometimes you draw your anti-combo cards, sometimes you draw your anti-creature cards. So he managed to draw the right mix of cards in this matchup.
Now this is very, very interesting. Wilson Hunter kept a no-lander. He discards a Cabal Therapy and passes the turn back. It turns out it was a Creeping Tar Pit. Now Hunter draws a land for the turn. It's an island, so he kept a no-land Gataxian Profan. Tried to get there, didn't get there on time, but he's there now, even though it looks like he's got a lot of black spells in his hand and not a lot of blue ones.
Wow, so yeah, he had a hand of Cabal Therapy, Duress, Gataxian Probe, and a second therapy. So yeah, that is a pretty good hand. Unfortunately, he did not have the black mana, and he hasn't drawn it now over 2 draw steps. Yeah. So now we're going to see Derrick Sheets. He's going to actually cast the Thoughtseize off of that Creeping Tar Pit.
I think he wants to know what the heck is going on over here, and we're going to finally get to see. You see a Duress, 2 copies of Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, a Past in Flames. There's a Lion's Eye Diamond as well. So
that is a pretty good hand if you draw the swamp.
Yeah, it's not something to be upset about.
Yeah, if you get there with the swamp and you ever draw an Infernal Tutor, that's just game over.
The other thing too, even though this hand might seem like a little bit of a sketcher, let's keep one thing in mind. One, Sheets doesn't have a lot of permission in the first game. Second, Hunter has a lot of discard in his hand. And third, it's not like Sheets closes the game out very quickly.
No.
So he's got a lot of time in reality to, cobble together some lands, cast a couple of Duresses and Cabal Therapies, and as you mentioned, 1 Infernal Tutor is all that it takes.
Yeah, I mean, Duress Cabal Therapy is basically the exact cards you want to be able to clear the path for your storm count, and having Gataxian Probe as well. So you actually can Gataxian Probe them first, then therapy them. That's huge. So unfortunately, he just didn't draw a land, and once he finally did draw a land, it was an island, not a black source.
I like the selection there from Sheets, deciding to take out the Lion's Eye Diamond, arguably the most powerful card there. There's a Deathrite Shaman and a Wasteland before Sheets does pass the turn back over to Hunter, who does draw a Ponder for the turn.
So we could see Ponder get forcible, but no, he's going to let it resolve.
I was actually going to ask that question myself, if that's worth forcing, and he decided that it wasn't. The 3 cards here are a Probe, another copy of Dark Ritual, and an Infernal Tutor.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because he found the Infernal Tutor he needs. Unfortunately, he still doesn't have that black source. So if there was a swamp in there and the Infernal Tutor, that'd be huge. He can suddenly be very close to going off, even without the Lion's Eye Diamond. But he's going to be forced to shuffle that away and get 1 random draw here.
Now, of course, Hunter does know about the Forcible and Spell Pierce over there in Sheets' hand, so it's something for him to contend with, but he does need to find some black mana to fire some discard spells, and then he'll probably be just fine. Step 1 here, of course, is resolving the shuffle and the mystery draw on this Ponder. Let's see what it finds. I believe that was a Flooded Strand.
Yeah, and he was really hoping for either a Polluted Delta or a Bloodstained Mire there so he can get a basic swamp. Now he's kind of in the position where he could get an Underground Sea to get black mana, but there is a Wasteland on Derrick's side of the board, so he's only going to be able to use it once, and I don't really think he can afford to do that.
I'd be surprised if he uses it right now to fire off a discard spell. He can just leave that Strand in play and wait, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So Sheets is going to untap. He's going to take a draw. It's another copy of Deathrite Shaman to go along with that Force Will, Spell Pierce, and Stoneforge Mystic in his hand. He also has a Liliana the Veil in his hand that he could not deploy just yet.
Yeah, there needs to be another land in the graveyard. there's no reason for him to be aggressive with this little wasteland just to try to Liliana get the resolve. So I think he's probably just going to play either a second Deathrite Shaman here.
Yeah, a little bit interesting. The Deathrite Shaman, oddly enough, really can't tap for the appropriate mana. He can, of course, play the Shaman off of the Tropical Island or the Creeping Tar Pit. He could get very aggressive and fire away a Wasteland targeting that Flooded Strand, which of course would buy a response from Hunter, but it would allow Sheets to actually produce a second black mana for the Liliana or a single white mana for the Stoneforge Mystic, but he's probably going to take the more conservative approach with the Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, so luckily for Wilson, Derrick is a little color screwed here. He doesn't have that access to white mana, so he can't cast that Stoneforge Mystic to get a bigger clock into play. So
we're going to see maybe a little cantrip in. There's a
Ponder. Perfect draw there for Wilson.
Quick update on another match for you guys at home. Jesse Hefner does win game number 1 over Greg Spano. Rogue Delver up a game against Mud, even though Hefner said he did not like his matchup. He has play tested it before with his friends. And he said, I've got an idea of what I'm doing. I just know it's not favorable. So Ponder is going to keep, and it's a polluted delta. So there's your basic swamp.
Yeah, so that was a great Ponder there for Wilson. Not only did he get a polluted delta, so he can get a basic swamp, but there was also a Lion's Eye Diamond. So if he just waits a turn, he could actually potentially try to go off next turn. He doesn't have the Inferno Tutor yet, but he does have double Ponder and Pass and Flame, so you can kind of try to dig for the combo along with the Gataxian Probe. So we'll see what he wants to do here. It looks like he's just going to pass. And, oh, wow, Deathrite Shaman takes out the Gataxian Probe. So that's definitely crucial there.
Sheets is going to draw a copy of Forcible. It's hard to say if that's good or bad, actually. And the reason for that is because we know that Hunter does have a Duress and a Cabal Therapy in his hand. Now, you don't know which way he's going to lead with the discard spells. You see Deathrite Shaman is going to come across into the red zone for 1. Probably going to see Sheets pass the turn back here. Again, he wants to deploy Liliana, but he just can't do that at this point unless he were to get very aggressive with that Wasteland, which he's just not going to do.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. He only plays one Tropical Island to use as an activation for Deathrite Shaman to gain life, and it is really hurting him in this game.
Found it.
So, wow, Wilson decides to sacrifice at the end of Derrick's turn. He is going to lose the Lion's Eye Diamond, though, which I believe was on top of his library. So maybe he just thinks he can win without it, but let's see what he decides to do here. Maybe he just wants to get an Infernal Tutor and win that way. He does have plenty of ritual effects. I believe he has double Dark Ritual and a Cabal Ritual, which should have Threshold.
Yeah, when it is cast, there's a chance that it will have Threshold. Of course, Deathrite Shaman can remove a card from the graveyard, so depending on how the sequencing goes, because he does have a fetch land in play as well, it is likely that it will have Threshold when it is cast. No guarantee, of course, but chances are rather high. As you see, Hunter is going to move around those lands a little bit, and he's going to lead off with the Cabal Therapy. This is going to be the interesting one. Exactly what card does Wilson Hunter want to name?
And he does name Force of Will.
Okay.
So Force of Will gets named, and that's likely the card that you're going to have to name, though you know about it already. So Force of Will gets discarded, and he is left with just a Liliana the Veil, Stoneforge Mystic, and Spell Pierce.
So Deathrite Shaman's going to go removing something here, and it's going to take care of a Ponder. And of course, the manipulation spells and the card drawing spells in the graveyard are the more important ones to actually hit. As you see, Sheets is going to draw a copy of Jace the Mind Sculptor here. The reason he wants to hit those is to kind of mitigate the damage that Pass and Flames can do.
Yeah, so good draw there from Derrick. He's able to actually get a pretty good Planeswalker into play, but still might want to lead with Liliana here to try to put more pressure on Wilson, although given the fact that Wilson has so many cards in his hand and you know he's got a lot of ritual effects, basically any Infernal Tutor is probably going to be gold for him. So you might want to still just lead with Jace to kind of get a little more action into your hand. But again, it's going to be hard given the fact that Wilson does have yet another Duress in his hand.
It's a pretty tough decision there to cast. Do I want to play Jace or do I want to play Liliana? Maybe try to shrink your hand down, or maybe go a little brainstorming. So he's going to go with the brainstorming option of 1, 2, and 3 cards coming. Nothing too exciting there. 2 lands and a Stoneforge Mystic.
So one of those lands is a Misty Rainforest, so he will be able to get a Tundra with it if he wants to get access to a white. But again, he really needs to try to find some permission here. He has a Spell Pierce, but he currently just doesn't have enough to power through if Wilson is able to draw any kind of action here.
Yeah, Wilson's still looking for a card like an Inferno Tutor or a Lion's Eye Diamond.
And it looks like he found an Inferno Tutor, so let's see what he decides to do here. He has a Duress, so he can clear the way of the Spell Pierce. Does he have enough ritual effects to go off, though? Without that Lion's Eye Diamond, it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, the question is, can he clear his hand? You know, that's the big issue here. You see the Passive Flames is actually in the grip, and he's got, you mentioned the Duress and some other spells there, but can he actually get all the cards out of his hand? And it looks like he's going to lead off with this Dark Ritual. Okay.
Yeah, so he can cast the Passive Flames because he does have a Volcanic Island in his deck, so he can sacrifice the Flooded Strand to find it. So I have to imagine he's probably going to he's going to lead with a Ritual and then probably into a Duress here.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was going to do too. So he is going to do that. Here's the Dark Ritual. 3 black mana floating, -1 for the Duress. That's 2. There goes the Spell Pierce. He sees that the coast is clear. Liliana and Stoneforge Mystic is the grip here for Sheets. So there's 2 black mana floating, and he's going to keep on going here, I presume.
Yeah, so there is still an active Deathrite Shaman, so potentially you could lose one of those, probably the Ponder, because you'll have plenty of ritual effects once you cast Passive Flames.
Yeah.
So let's see what Wilson decides to do here. I have to imagine he probably feels, he knows the coast is clear to go for it. The question is whether or not he'll be able to win through what he has in play. He doesn't really have that much. I don't know if he can empty his hand, like you said.
He's going to play Cabal Therapy, and I was really interested to see if he was going to Cabal Therapy, maybe targeting himself to get a card out of his hand. He chose to go towards Sheets and get that Liliana out of there. So he had 1 black floating. Now he's going to use that 1 black mana and generate some more mana here with a Dark Ritual. So still at 3.
Yeah, so it looks like he will be able to empty his hand because I believe his last few cards are Cabal Ritual and Passive Flames.
And then the Infernal Tutor.
So the Infernal Tutor, when he gets cast, he should have Hellbent.
So he's going to check the graveyard here. 3 - 2 is 1, +5 is 6 black mana, as his Cabal Ritual does have Threshold. If Sheets tries to move the Deathrite Shaman, then Hunter can sacrifice the Flooded Strand. He's going to sacrifice the Flooded Strand in just a moment, we think, and there it goes. As you mentioned, there's a Volcanic Island in his main deck.
Yes, so fortunately he does have access to red mana, so he can actually use it to cast Passive Flames.
Currently, 6 black mana in the pool.
So 6 black mana, he's going to find the Volcanic Island, and he can use that to cast Passive Flames. And he also has an island untapped as well. So 6 black mana and plus Volcanic Island, an island, total of 8 mana. Passive Flames cost 4, so he'll have 4 mana remaining. Depending on what the Deathrite Shaman does, he could actually flashback Cabal Ritual to generate a lot of mana after that fact. So let's see what happens. Passive Flames get cast. Is Derrick going to respond to the Passive Flames by activating Deathrite Shaman?
Yeah, that's the big question here. Again, Passive Flames is going to be cast here. So there was 6 black mana floating. He uses the red and 3. So now there's 3 black floating. Now this is a Cabal Ritual with 1 floating.
Yeah, so he's probably going to immediately just get all those rituals out of his graveyard.
Yeah, that's the goal, I think, just to generate as much mana as he can. So now he's going to go up to a bunch of black mana.
So now he has plenty of black mana. The question is, though, what is he going to do with that mana? He does not have an Ad Nauseam in his main deck. So how many spells is he casting this turn? Is Tendrils going to be lethal?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be right now. He's got 10 black mana in his pool, but if you remember the spells that he played in the order he did it, he started with a Dark Ritual, into a Duress, into a Cabal Therapy, into another Dark Ritual, and then he cast a Passive Flame. So that's 5. He recast these rituals again. That puts him up to 8. The Duress puts him up to 9. There's the Infernal Tutor. And of course, he's got plenty of black mana and no cards in his hand. So Infernal Tutor is going to be spell number 10. He's going to go Demonic Tutor style, of course, because he's Hellbent. And as he does go through his deck, I think he's going to search for a black sorcery with Storm.
So Tendrils of Agony gets cast, and that is more than enough. Storm count probably at 11 at that point. Yep. So Wilson Hunter defeats Derrick Sheets 1-0. So we're going to move to game 2, and Wilson Hunter's up the game, kind of what we expected, you know?
Yeah, I think game 1 is definitely in his favor, and let's not forget either, that was a game where he kept a no-lander, which is a little unorthodox, I think, but at the same time, his hand was very powerful, and he knows in this particular matchup, especially in game number 1, hey, his clock isn't very fast, his Sheets, and also I have discard in my hand, so I can actually push through the small amount of permission that he does have. Take a look at that game. We watched Sheets draw Liliana, Jace, Stoneforge, and some Deathrite Shamans, but as far as permission is concerned, 2 copies of Force of Will, which Therapy took care of, and then then a Spell Pierce, which Duress took care of. So not a lot of permission game 1. Game 2 through 5, those will get a little more hairy, and we'll get there in just a moment, but it's trivia time. I've got the question if you've got the directions.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know at home, During the top 8 of any tournament, we always give away 3 months in the quarterfinals, 6 months in the semifinals, and then 12 months in the finals of Star City Games premium membership for StarCityGames.com. You can read all the great articles there. Basically, we ask you a trivia question, and then you tweet us the answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Speed does not matter, just accuracy is all that matters. So just tweet us the right answer, and then we will randomly select one of the winners, and we will announce the winner at the end of this round. So for the question, we'll toss it over to Cedric.
In the main deck of Wilson Hunter's Storm deck, he has 2 Storm cards. We saw one of them in that game. That's obviously Tendrils Vagony. What is the other Storm card that I'm sure he probably caught a couple people by surprise with this weekend? If you can name that card, hashtag on Twitter with the hashtag of SCG Premium, and make sure you're following at SCG Live so we can get the prize over to you. As we are going to move on to the sideboards here. Storm up a game, but as we said, we're not too surprised by that. Mr. Derrick Sheets will be on the play game number 2, and as we kind of mentioned at the top, he's got a lot of options to bring in. You see Sword of Feast and Famine, 2 Meddling Mage, a Detention Sphere, 3 copies of Rest in Peace, 2 Abrupt Decay, 2 Flusterstorm, a Zealous Persecution, a Vendilion Click, a Liliana of the Veil, and a Thoughtseize. Man, he can really, really do some work here. Sword of Feast and Famine in, 2 Meddling Mages in, 3 Rest in Peace, as we saw Wilson Hunter use his graveyard to win the game. I don't know if he wants all 3, but he can bring in some number of those. 2 Flusterstorms in, Vendilion Click, yes, Liliana, yes, Thoughtseize, yes. We're looking in between 8 to 10 cards here. That is a whole bunch.
Yeah, he could be boarding up to upwards of 11 cards almost with this deck, and all of them would be perfectly reasonable cards to board in. So definitely very... understanding that game 1 is probably not favored for him against combo decks. So after board, he needs to get a little aggressive with the sideboarding. So that's kind of why I feel like games 2 through 5 are definitely going to be more interesting, because this is where you kind of really see can Wilson Hunter's Storm deck power through the kind of hate that we've seen. We kind of saw him in the Swiss. He was playing against Brian Brandowan, and Brian BBD was playing a Miracle deck, so it's a slightly different deck. But again, he had to face against both he has to face off against Rest in Peace and Meddling Mage, and he wasn't able to do it. So although he did learn a lot from that game, so maybe he'll be able to figure it out and adjust accordingly. But it's going to be very difficult for him after board.
On the other side here, Wilson Hunter has 4 copies of Xantid Swarm, 2 Abrupt Decay, and Ad Nauseum, 2 Chain of Vapors, an Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Massacres, 2 Thoughtseizes, and a Tropical Island. He, of course, has access to Derrick Sheets' deck list, so he knows that, wow, things are going to get really tough for me after sideboard. So he can bring in a card like Abrupt Decay to take care of Meddling Mage, Sword of Feast and Famine, or Rest in Peace. He can bring in Chain of Vapor to actually do all of those things as well. He's got a little bit more discard in Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize, but at the end of the day, things are going to get really hard for him.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see whether or not he's going to go all in on both Xanthic Swarm and the discard, or is he just going to pick one or the other? Because it seems odd to bring in both Xanthic Swarm and Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek. So not sure what he's going to do here. We did see him bring in Xanthic Swarm against Miracles, so but this is a slightly different deck. They don't have nearly as many counterspells, although Flusterstorm can be problematic. Still, you're going to have Cabal Therapy, Duress, Thoughtseize, Inquisition after board. That might be a kind of better strategy, because not only can you take out their counterspells, but you can actually go after their proactive cards like Meddling Mage, Rest in Peace. So I kind of like the discard a little bit more than Xanthic Swarm, but I'm not sure whether or not he wants to do both. It just seems like you're diluting your deck a lot.
Yeah, and that's the big problem, right? Is if you dilute your deck too much, and you won't be able to actually function the way that you want to in the sideboarded games. But, you know, that's part of the appeal of Sheets' deck. I think that, you know, the Deathblade deck is this deck that's going to hedge against everyone in game 1 across the format. Even though the deck is incredibly powerful, you know, you can't gear your deck to beat, you know, all combo and still have good matchup against the fair decks. So Sheets is, you know, a dog, obviously, game 1, as we did see there. But, boy, he can really sure things up after sideboard.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have a better game plan after sideboard. However, it's not going to be easy for him because, again, you have to respect the speed of Storm. It's going to play into not only his sideboarding, but his decision-making in terms of mulliganing, how he plays out every game. So he's got to be very cautious about how things play out over those first 3 turns or so.
Quick update for you guys on our other match here. Jesse Hefner with Rug Delver is up 2-0 over Greg Spano in his Mud deck. Again, in our post-match interview with Hefner, he said, I don't want to play against either of those guys in Betcher or Spano, but if I had to pick one, it would be Spano, because at least I've played against that deck before and I've got an idea of what I'm doing. And so far, apparently that's the truth, because he is up 2-0 here very quickly.
Yeah, it's surprising. You know, Trinisphere and Chalice's Void, both very problematic cards for Delver. So Been interested to see read the coverage of that match to see what happened there.
Yeah, right now we do have, of course, Nick Miller and Andrew Shrout down there doing written reports for you guys. So if we aren't able to move over to the Hefner versus Mano match, you can check out exactly what happened over on our coverage page. As you see Derrick Sheets picking up his 7 cards here. He's going to take a look at opening hand and decide if he's happy, as we'll be underway in game number 2 here in just a moment.
So let's see. Derrick looks like he's okay with his 7 cards. And or again, he has to aggressively mulligan at times with this deck. He can't allow things to go unfettered over the first few turns. Hands like Land, Stoneforge, Jace might be good against some decks. They are not good against Storm. But he is going to keep his opening 7.
Do you think Spano's going to keep a hand with a land in it this time?
We'll see.
I mean, he didn't need last game.
Yeah, he didn't need it last game. So we're going to see if Hunter does. He does keep a 7-card hand. I don't know if it has lands in it, but Derrick Sheets is going to lead off it with Deathrite Champion. So good start for him.
All right, there is a Deathrite Shaman off of the polluted Delta. She's going to go down to 19. Losing life in this match doesn't matter a ton. There are some interesting tendril draws that can take place where if you're at 18 and or 16, you can get the job done. But Hunter is going to draw his card. Oh, he has lands. How lucky.
Wow, strange keep for Wilson.
Bloodstained Mire going to put him down to 19.
And, you know, it's Derrick's got to be kicking himself because he was so close to pulling off the upset in game 1, but he was just color screwed. That Tropical Island kept coming back to haunt him. He wasn't able to get Liliana into play, wasn't able to get Stoneforge Mystic into play, but really Liliana being the key there. He could have gone turn 3 Liliana. Unfortunately, just that Tropical Island just came back to bite him. So really unfortunate there game 1. However, this game doesn't look like he's going to have any color problems at all. Plus, he does have one of his sideboard cards, so... we see Spell Pierce, Brainstorm, and a Metal Mage get revealed here.
It's a good hand. It's a really good hand.
It's a good hand. Metal Mage, obviously, having a sideboard card is always great. If I'm Wilson here, even though Spell Pierce can prove problematic, I still think I take the Brainstorm here. Just because you kind of want to make sure that you can not let Derrick progress any further, and it's going to help him protect his hand later on anyway.
Yeah, there's a Thoughtseize that comes showing at the top. I agree with you there that I think, you know, the Brainstorming Force can become anything, and there are fetch lands over there in Sheets' hand. So, you know, it's a really, really good Brainstorm as we see the Thoughtseize show a hand of Cabal Ritual, Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, and a bunch of lands this go around.
Wow, so this is a really weak hand for Wilson.
Yeah.
Even though it has lands in it, it's significantly worse than his last hand. So now with Thoughtseize, he's going to lose one of his ritual effects as well. So, yeah, Derrick is going to be able to follow up this Thoughtseize with the Metal Mage. So he's going to be in pretty good shape because Wilson just doesn't have any action here at all.
She's kind of shrugging his shoulders, saying, I wanted to get something a little bit better than this. You know, you've got a bunch of lands. Everything that you have is redundant. Maybe that's part of the reason that Hunter decided to keep a handful of redundancy. Does one up the discard in this matchup. So I think in this situation, if I'm Derrick, I would take the Thoughtseize, or excuse me, I would take the Dark Ritual simply because that's kind of the Kickstarter. It generates the most, but you know, it's tough to say.
Well, the other thing is Spell Pierce. If you have Spell Pierce in your hand, you could actually just, it might be easier to counter Cabal Ritual, but given the amount of hands in Wilson's hand, I think he just thinks, okay, he's going to get Threshold because he has a number of sack lands, plus I'm going to make him discard a hand too. So Cabal Ritual is just a bigger ritual effect for him.
Blue Delta going to get sacrificed. Sheet's going to go down to 16, of course, 2 from the fetches, and then 2 from the Thoughtseize. He's going to go get a Tundra. So working on getting some nice mana out here. Now he's going to cast what looks to be a Meddling Mage. Chris Pakula, you can shield your eyes.
Yes. For Chris at home, I know he's watching the coverage because he loves watching coverage.
Yeah.
I apologize on behalf of Derrick Sheets.
Thank you. And he will name Dark Ritual. So the only card that's basically live right now in Wilson Hunter's hand is the Lotus Petal. He's going to play a Misty Rainforest. Of course, Grim Tutor was his draw step for the turn. So not sure exactly how he wants to use the powerful Tutor, but we'll find out down the road here in just a little bit. As Sheets is really off to a nice start this game.
Well, an interesting thing here for Wilson is he does have one copy. He has 2 copies of Massacre in his sideboard. So interesting to see whether or not he decided to board in the Massacre, because that would obviously be huge here. Derrick is out of gas. If Massacre does resolve, it would be huge for Wilson. So let's see what he decides to do here. He played Lotus Petal. He could actually cast Grim Tutor to search out that Massacre. And the fact that he's actually sacking the land now, playing Lotus Petal, makes me think he wants to cast Grim Tutor right now.
Yeah.
Knowing exactly what's in Derrick's hand. He knows Derrick doesn't have a counterspell because he duressed him the turn before, and Thoughtseize was the card, obviously, that Derrick drew. So
Yeah, so he's in the clear. The only card over there See what he actually does care about. He's going to cast the Grim Tutor right now. He's going to lose 3 life to do this right now. However, let's see what he goes and finds.
Yes, because he knows about that Spell Pierce.
Yep.
So Spell Pierce is the only card that he has to worry about. So maybe he's not going for a Massacre. Not sure if he boarded in or not, but wouldn't be surprised if he did. It's actually pretty good in this matchup. So Grim Harvest, Grim Tutor, maybe he just cast it because he knows this is the best time too because of the Spell Pierce. But let's see what he can. Oh, it looks like it's just a Brainstorm.
Got a Brainstorm.
So again, not a bad card either. It's going to allow him to refill his hand a little bit. He does have another sack land.
Yeah, Sheets' draw, besides that Spell Pierce, he's just got 2 lands in his hand. So Melee Mage is going to come across here for 2. And of course, Deathrite Shaman plus Melee Mage is essentially 4 damage a turn.
Yeah.
So it's still a pretty good clock. And Sheets is just looking for something else to actually close this game out with because Storm doesn't take long to assemble. It's actually quite scary.
Wow, so it looks like Derrick is expecting a Massacre.
Yeah, Massacre,
almost.
yeah. Are my things dead? And Wilson said, not just yet. Easy there, buddy. See, Ponder going to reveal a Brainstorm and a couple of black cards.
All right, so Wilson's still in it. He's got some live draws here, but that Melee Mage is named Dark Ritual, not Cabal Ritual, so that's good news for him.
And there is a Cabal Ritual. Ponder's going to resolve. That's going to make it, that there are 5 cards in the graveyard. The Pluto Delta in play would be 6. But we're going to go down to actually 4 cards because we're going to go down to 5 cards because there goes the Cabal Ritual via Deathrite Shaman.
You know, it's funny, if Wilson didn't bring in Massacre, the way that Derrick played it, I definitely think he might be considering boarding it in now.
He will now, yeah. There's another copy of Deathrite Shaman.
And
yeah, it's the way that he kind of moved his creatures, like these are dead, right?
Yeah.
These are dead. And Wilson's like, I didn't. Well, maybe they're dead. Well, they'll be dead next game.
Yeah.
How about that?
And again, we don't know that Wilson didn't board in Massacre. Just because he didn't search for it doesn't mean that he doesn't have it in his deck. Maybe he just felt like he needs to just get more gas, which is why he went for the Brainstorm. So he still has plenty of live outs. It would be great if he drew a Massacre here, but looks like he just drew a Thoughtseize along with 2 sack lands.
Yeah, the problem here for Wilson is that he's under the gun in a big way because on Hunter's end step, Sheets can activate the Deathrite Shaman, remove a instant or sorcery, and deal 2. That's going to put Hunter down to 7. The attack on Melee Mage puts him down to 5. You've got 2 active Deathrite Shamans to put him down to 1, which means that Polluted Delta in play will put him down to none, obviously, so he's probably not going to be able to use that. Additionally, you can't really afford to use that Thoughtseize either that he just saw.
Yeah, so Wilson's under a lot of pressure right here. He actually just doesn't have enough mana, and now that he is sacking the Polluted Delta, if he does the math, he knows he has to try to do something this turn.
Yeah.
And he has to and he's facing down a Spell Pierce too. He still knows that Derrick has a Spell Pierce in his hand.
It's kind of funny, I wouldn't say that Sheets did anything incredible this game. He cast a Thoughtseize, he played a Deathrite Shaman and a Meddling Mage, and then another Deathrite Shaman in the last turn. He didn't do anything busted here, but his draw is actually pretty quick because, again, Deathrite Shaman, 2 damage is a lot, Meddling Mage attacking, and, with the sacrificing of fetch lands here, Hunter is actually just underneath a ton of pressure, so much so that he's facing what is basically a lethal attack next turn.
Yeah, so he still has Brainstorm, so he can kind of dig. Hopefully he did board in a Massacre because that is another out for him, but... Lotus Petal, we could Taxian Probe.
Yeah, the way that he's digging, I have a feeling that it's in his deck somewhere.
Yeah, so looks like he's going to toss away the Thoughtseize and a land. He still has another Polluted Delta, so he can shuffle those away.
And cast the Probe.
He can cast the Probe for free and try to get one more draw. But at this point, it has to be just a Massacre because he knows Derrick has a Spell Pierce in his hand.
He passed a turn back.
Wow, so Wilson passed the turn back. Maybe he's not aware that... this is lethal.
Yeah, that's going to put him down to 6. That's surprising.
Yeah, there are plenty of sorceries and instants for Derrick to remove.
So Sheets is going to quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. Card doesn't matter. He doesn't even look at the card and activate both of those, and that's going to do it. So Derrick Sheets is going to win game number 2 here over Wilson Hunter. Deathblade is going to even it up against Storm in what was, all things being honest, not even a very impressive draw from Deathblade.
No, and I think, given the way that Wilson kind of conceded that last game, he didn't even use the Taxian Probe.
Yeah.
I don't think he had Massacre in his deck. I just don't think he boarded it in.
Okay.
But now that he kind of saw how good that board was for Massacre, I think maybe we'll see if he goes back to his sideboard, reaches back for it. So far, it looks like he's just shuffling. So looks like he might be content with his 60 cards right here.
So as these players are going to shuffle up, quick update on a match. Then I'm going to ask you a pretty interesting question. Greg Spano does win game number 3 here. So Mud trying to get back in it against Jesse Hefner and his Rug Delver deck. When you're playing in a match like this, and since you are a Pro Tour champion, obviously you've been in some high pressure, high leverage situations. Do you do something like Derrick Sheets did, where you kind of move your creatures off to the side, and you're just like, oh, these are going to get massacred, or do you do any table talking, or what's your demeanor in the match? Because you don't want to give away any information. Like, you have an idea of how you think your opponent may sideboard, but that doesn't mean that's actually what they're going to do, especially when you're maybe prepping the night before with your team or your friends or stuff like that.
It usually depends on my opponent, because there are certain opponents that you can kind of tell they're a little nervous, they can get rattled. So sometimes you can kind of play a little mental games with them. You can kind of some gamesmanship, talk them into things. Then there are opponents that they have a great mental game. They're not going to be rattled. So when I was playing at Pro Tour Venice, I was in the top 4 against Huey Jensen. Huey's not a guy that you can rattle.
Sure.
So I literally just kept my mouth shut.
Sure.
He's so good. Not only can you not rattle him, but you could actually give things away. So there are players that you have to respect that you don't want to give things away to. So for those players, I actually just try not to say anything. I don't do anything. I just try to play my game and focus. However, there are some other players who you can kind of tell are maybe a little nervous. They're getting, they're under the lights for the first time. Maybe you try to loosen things up with them a little bit and they kind of make a mistake. But in general, it really just depends on the kind of person I'm playing against.
Yeah, I find that, that might seem like a minor thing with the way that Sheets was just like, oh, my creatures are dead. Right now, we're not even sure, again, if Hunter has Massacre in his deck. He didn't go back to his sideboard. He pile shuffled very quickly and was just like, all right, let's go again.
Yeah, I thought that was a very, very bad decision for Derrick, because you're basically reminding Wilson of his massacres. Like, if he didn't board it in, he could have just forgot about Massacre altogether. And it didn't look like he went to his sideboard, so it didn't look like he really even made any changes. But yeah, Derrick basically said, hey, Massacre's really good right here.
Yeah.
That's basically what by making that motion, he basically said, wow, I'm really going to get wrecked by a Massacre.
Yeah.
And
especially
if I'm Wilson...
especially after you Grim Tutored.
Exactly, yeah. If I'm Wilson, that's what I think of. I'm like, oh, wow, he's right. Let me go back to my sideboard. But we didn't see him go back to the sideboard, so I'm not sure. And the way he just ended that game without even taxing probing, trying to dig for a Massacre, because again, Massacre, he could cast it for free because he had a swamp and there was a Tundra on Derrick's side of the board. So that would play around Spell Pierce because he had 2 mana up.
Yep.
So that was still a live out for him if it was in his deck. So it makes me think that maybe he's just not in his deck. So despite the fact that Derrick kind of gave a little something away there, I don't think Wilson picked up on it.
Yeah, just a little something to keep in mind. Maybe Wilson will go back to the sideboard after this game, depending on the result, of course. But he's going to mulligan here. He's going to take a look at 6 cards. Sheets kept his 7 rather quickly. So the Storm player looking at 6 cards now.
And Wilson Hunter here looking at 6 cards. Let's see if he's going to keep these. And it looks like he is going to keep. So 6 cards versus 7. Let's see if Wilson can pull this off.
Just a swamp before passing the turn back, so no brainstorming, no manipulation, no fun. There's a Tundra there from Sheets passing the turn back, so again, Massacre is live right away. We don't know if it's there, but it's live right away.
We don't know if it's in his deck, but it is live.
Hunter's hand, doesn't look to be the best. He's going to sacrifice Mr. Rainforest and go down to 19. There's a Past in Flames hanging out over there. There's also a Cabal Ritual. Not sure the rest of the contents as he does search up Basic Island. The reason for that, there are a few copies of Wasteland floating around Mr. Sheets' deck.
Yeah, unfortunately for Wilson, Derrick does have one of his sideboard cards in Rest in Peace in his hand, so that will turn off the Past in Flames in Wilson's hand.
Yeah, here's the thing. That can't really come as much of a surprise, right? When we took a look at the sideboards, and it looks like there's going to be some cantripping here and a Ponder. Sheets is going to have a sideboard card in his hand a high percentage of the time, I think, just given that he can board up to 11 cards in this matchup.
Yep.
And all of his sideboard cards, and this is one of the reasons I really like his configuration of this deck, all of his sideboard cards are high-impact sideboard cards.
Yeah, very high impact. We saw Meddling Mage play a big role there. Not only did it shut down the Dark Ritual, but it actually put a lot of pressure on Wilson's life total. So Meddling Mage, probably one of the better cards that Derrick can hope to get, because not only do you want to actually kind of interact with Wilson's hand, but you also want to put some pressure on his life total, because this is something that Derrick's deck has difficulty to do. I'd say Meddling Mage, Vendilion Click are probably the 2 best threats that he has. So Derrick draws his card for the turn. Be surprised if we didn't see a Rest in Peace come down here, but it looks like he's going to play Stoneforge instead, trying to get some pressure into play. And I guess he feels like with Wilson mulliganing to 6, I probably have a little time before I need to worry about getting a Rest in Peace into play. So
now here's a question. Searches for Batterskull. Now, I don't know if he has Sword of Feast and Famine in his hand or not, but, let's assume that he doesn't have Sword of Feast and Famine. Would you prefer the Batterskull and getting a little bit of life and dealing a bunch of damage, or would you go get the sword there?
If I boarded in Sword, I like Sword.
Okay.
Just because it's not that much more damage, plus the ability to untap your lands and actually continue to do force Wilson to discard cards, particularly when he's mulligan to 6, I think is huge. So if he did board in sword, I think I'd rather get the sword.
Okay. No, we don't know if he has it in his hand or not right now, but our assumption is that he probably did board in Sword of Feast and Famine in this matchup, as getting after the hand here is certainly a good idea. Hunter going to sacrifice a polluted Delta. He's down to 18. Maybe time to go cantrip in one more time. And looks like it is. Another Ponder.
Yeah, so Wilson reveals a Lion's Eye Diamond and 2 Gitaxian Probes. And the interesting thing for Derrick here is that he does have a Force of Will and a Spell Pierce that he can pitch to the Force of Will. But beyond that, he doesn't have that much counter spells. So if he decides to not play the Rest in Peace next turn, Wilson has a lot more live draws here to just combo off, because he does have double a Lion's Eye Diamond, double Cabal Ritual, and the Pass in Flames.
I'm trying to think if it's possible that he can kill him this turn, because again, the top of the deck is well, the Ponder is double Probe and then a Lion's Eye Diamond. So the Lion's Eye Diamond will generate a ton of mana, and then double Probes with Pass in Flames will give him a bunch of redraws here, and he also has Cabal Rituals in his hand. So he doesn't have the card to actually go off like an Infernal Tune or anything, but we're going to see a Gitaxian Probe, and there is a actual possibility that Wilson Hunter tries to go off this turn.
Yeah, it's going to be hard with the Force of Will, because if Derrick just counters the Pass in Flames, obviously Wilson could still potentially flash it back, but that's a lot of mana.
Yes,
so even with double Lion's Eye Diamond, it's going to be tough.
There's the grip for Derrick Sheets. You see the Spell Pierce and the Force of Will that Osip did mention, along with the Rest in Peace, the Batter Skull that Stoneforge found, and a couple of lands in Underground Sea, Tundra, and Misty Rainforest. Probe is going to resolve. It's going to draw Wilson Hunter a card. It is a copy of Lion's Eye Diamond. That means he put the other Gitaxian Probe down on the bottom. And now Sheets is going to get to untap. He gets to take a draw, and it's a copy of Flusterstorm.
So now Derrick not only can play Rest in Peace this turn if he wants to, but he can also have mana up for Flusterstorm. So really dominating position right here. Let's see what he wants to do. He also can actually just pass the turn and put the Batter Skull into play.
Yeah, I think this is the play that I like the most, just passing the turn. And, you know, with this kind of wall up and being able to do what you want, Wilson Hunter gets to actually see what Sheets did draw. And Sheets says, you know what, I'll lay down the card I drew first, which is the copy of Flusterstorm. That's going to be real tough for you to beat. And while Wilson does kind of take in this information and draw a mystery card, Jesse Hefner is on to the finals. He defeats Greg Spano 3-1. So if you're a Rug Delver or Jesse Hefner fan, you get to watch him one more time, potentially punch his ticket to the Star City Games Players Championship at the end of the year in Roanoke.
So Wilson Hunter draws a Brainstorm off of the Gitaxian Probe, and he is going to cast it this turn. He has to fight through a lot of hate cards from Derrick. And it looks like, wow, so Wilson did draw the Tendrils of Agony that he has in his main deck here. Unfortunately, Flusterstorm makes it very, very difficult.
Just a touch.
Yeah, just a touch.
Just a touch.
So
looks like we're going to be putting 2 cards back here with this Brainstorm in just a second.
But the thing is, if he's able to draw a discard effect to get rid of the Flusterstorm, he doesn't need to win through his graveyard anymore. So that is important. But again, he has a lot of mana here. So he has Dark Ritual, he has Lion's Eye Diamond. I think he might have 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds plus double Cabal Ritual. So he still might be able to power through this just because he drew that Tendrils of Agony. If he can kind of bait Derrick into making a mistake with the Flusterstorm and countering it the wrong spell. Potentially the Pass in Flames.
Yeah. That's all part of it when you're playing Storm, is trying to bait him. I remember just kind of looking at Brian Braunduin's Facebook statuses and some of his reports that he wrote when he was playing Storm in the Open Series a little bit at the back end of last year and the beginning of this year, just saying, I have to go through so much work to win, and baiting is such a key thing with this deck to try to trick people into countering the wrong spells. But if you're proficient at it, it leads to a lot of wins.
Yeah, given Wilson's hand, the amount of ritual effects he has, he might actually be able to pull this one off, even through a Flusterstorm and a Force of Will. But if he does, it'll have to be this turn, I think, because once Rest in Peace comes into play, Derrick doesn't even have to worry about that Pass in Flames anymore. So let's see what he decides to do here. He's still trying to resolve that Brainstorm. Although it looks like he put one of the Lion's Eye Diamonds back, so.
He's going to play an Underground Sea. If he passes the turn back, things are going to get really, really ugly. And I didn't think he was going to. All right, so here's a Dark Ritual. And Derrick Sheets says, all right, let's take a look.
Hold on a second. So, yeah, it looks like he has at least one other Cabal Ritual. I thought he might have had a second. but maybe he put that on top of his library.
This is going to be mighty interesting. Trying to force a little bit of action. And again, you don't know if this is something where Wilson Hunter's just going, yeah, just Dark Ritual. Let's see if I can get you to counter this. Let's see if I can get you to counter that. Let's see if I can get you to counter this, and then just moving forward.
And currently, I believe the storm count is at 3.
And this is a Flusterstorm.
So Flusterstorm does get countered. And now Wilson's thinking, okay, well, can I try to kill you with Tendrils next turn now that the Flusterstorm is gone? I have a Lion's Eye Diamond in play. I might have another on top of my library. And then if I can get Past in Flames to resolve. So I think he might be okay with this.
He's trying to set him up really bad.
Yeah, he got the Flusterstorm out of his hand, so that was key. And he drew the 1 Tendrils in his deck, so that is a way for him to win without having to rely on Past in Flames. He still has to deal with Force of Will, but again, much better situation than he was when he had to deal with the Flusterstorm.
So you see the Cabal Ritual over there. Is he going to try to cast that this turn?
Yeah, given he knows about the Force of Will, I'm not sure he has enough to go with it now. I think he might have to wait a turn. But let's see here.
The big problem is the storm count ever going to get higher? Yeah, there's a Lion's Eye Diamond. This is all about trying to get
that's true. The storm account might just be high enough.
Yeah, this is all about trying to get Sheets to counter the wrong spell.
Yeah.
That's what this is all predicated on.
So storm count currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, we started with a probe, a brainstorm, a dark ritual, a Flusterstorm, a Lion's Eye Diamond, so 5, right?
Yeah, so Gitaxian Probe, Brainstorm, Dark Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, Flusterstorm.
Now Force of Will.
Lion's Eye Diamond, Force of Will, so it's 7 right now. Yeah, 7. The Flusterstorm also counted as one of it.
Yeah, it started, yeah, it should be
6 right now,
yeah.
okay.
Probe, he started with Probe and a Brainstorm and a D-Rit. That got Flusterstorm, that's 4. Lion's Eye Diamond is 5, Force of Will 6.
Okay. So 6 spells. And he doesn't have enough to actually cast Cabal Ritual and Past in Flames.
Yeah, that's the big issue here. Is that he could cast Cabal Ritual, have it be spell 7, and Tendrils would be spell number 8. And there would be a huge drain, a huge gain, but it would not get the job done.
The big beating for him here is that the Rest in Peace is saying, because he could actually cast, I believe the ritual will be 8 or 7, 8, so he can actually drain him for 16. But then the Rest in Peace comes down and shuts off your Past in Flames out.
Here's your Batter Skull, as Hunter does pass the turn back. So we're going to get a Germ token out there in just a moment for you guys. And then we'll be going back to Sheets' turn, where it is, I think, extremely likely that we're going to see him cast a Rest in Peace. But it depends on what he draws as well, as he will take a draw step here. It's a copy of Death, right, Shaman?
Yeah, I think if you're Derrick, you just slam down a Rest in Peace right here. It's the main reason you boarded it in for exactly this situation.
Yeah. Especially with the way that Hunter was kind of playing that turn too, trying to mess around and bait you a bunch. He's going to play a Deathrite Shaman. He's going to play a land. Yeah, he's going to cast Rest in Peace to get this graveyard out of here. And so that's going to take care of all those things, along with that Past in Flames in Wilson Hunter's hand. Wilson Hunter is up with a Tendrils in the grip. He takes a draw step. This is a copy of Lion's Eye Diamond. He also has a Cabal Ritual over there, but he just has to pass the turn back, knowing that he cannot cobble anything together. Sheets is going to untap very quickly. He'll take a draw. He's coming in for 4, 5, 6. He's going to gain some life. Hunter will take one more draw step. It's another ritual effect. And he's going to concede the game. So Derrick Sheets is going to win game number 2 over Wilson Hunter. Deathblade, 1 win away from facing Jesse Hefner in the finals.
Yes, so Derrick Sheets up 2-1 versus Wilson Hunter, and now we're in game 4 here. And yeah, the Sideboard cards just proved too powerful yet again. Game 2 was all about Metal Mage. Game 3, that Flusterstorm Rest in Peace combo was just too good.
I mean, this is what we thought was going to happen too. When he has the ability to sideboard up to 11 cards, in his game 1 matchup, he's a huge dog. Not much of a surprise to see Wilson Hunter win game number 1, but the games after sideboard, and you saw Sheets get handed the deck list. I don't know if you saw that. He got handed the deck list of Wilson Hunter, and he's just like, I don't need this. I'm good. I'm good. I know exactly what I need to get done here. I've got all my sideboard cards in. I'm not changing my config. I know exactly what he can have, and let's move forward. So Wilson Hunter, he had the opportunity to take a look at the deck list as well. Didn't take much time to do that. And again, it still kind of begs the question if Massacre is in his deck or not.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because Wilson, that turn the critical turn right before where he's trying to get the storm count up, he decided to keep a Cabal Ritual over a Lion's Eye Diamond on top of his library. So if he actually kept the Lion's Eye Diamond, he would have been able to still go off that turn because he could have actually played both Lion's Eye Diamond, activated them both. He would have discarded his hand, but he would have discarded Past in Flames, and then he just flashes that back that turn. And then he could have just kept going off. So if Wilson just had considered how he was going to go off that turn and everything that could have happened, everything would have been different. And he led with Gataxian Probe too, which is strange. So he had perfect information. He was even able to get Derrick to Flusterstorm the wrong spell in Dark Ritual. So everything went well for him, except he was just a couple of mana off. And it turned out that Cabal Ritual was really the wrong card to keep in your hand.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that Storm is a hard deck to play.
Incredibly hard. Yeah. And I'm sure Adam Prozac is at home watching the coverage saying, "Oh, what are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's obvious what you do
this,
there.
you do that, he counters this, you tricked him because he's a doofus, you do that, and then you kill him." It's like, I don't know if that's actually true.
Well, Storm is easy when you're goldfish. Storm could even be tough when you're goldfishing, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
But when you have to play against an opponent and actually consider all the possible hate cards they have, I mean, Gataxian Probe helps because at least when you have perfect information, you can kind of start doing the math. But the thing is, even in that situation, you don't know what he's going to Flusterstorm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you said, he's trying to bait you. You're trying to bait him to Flusterstorm the wrong spell. But maybe he didn't expect the Dark Ritual to get Flusterstorm. Maybe he expected Past in Flames to get Flusterstorm. And the way it kind of worked out for him, he was just a couple of mana off. So if he kept the Lion's Eye Diamonds, obviously that works out much better for him. So very difficult deck to pilot, mostly just because not only do you have to constantly worry about your making sure that you have the right enough mana to do what you need to do and sequence your spells accordingly, but you have to constantly face all these various hate cards. It's not like one specific hate card. It's like Flusterstorm, Rest in Peace, Meddling Mage. They attack you from so many different angles.
Yeah. That's the big issue. Of course, I think Wilson Hunter is going to bring in a card like Abrupt Decay, which can solve all of those problems, but one, he's only got 2 of those, and Sheets brings in so many cards and so many redundant effects that Abrupt Decays are just being overworked in this situation. See both players going to lay out their opening hands here. We'll be watching game number 4 in just a moment between Derrick Sheets and Wilson Hunter. Again, we'll be announcing our premium winner at the conclusion of this round, so for you 6-monthers out there, we will have an answer and a winner in just a little bit, as Wilson Hunter does keep his opening hand. His back is against the wall. Sheets already has a Meddling Mage in his hand. We'll see what else he has within those 7 cards, and if he's going to keep her mulligan.
Oh, he does not look happy.
Oh, are you sure?
Let's see if he's going to keep this hand or not. This could be a situation. It looks like he has a lot of hate cards, but that stinky Tropical Island yet again makes an appearance. Looks like he's got Deathrite Shaman, Thoughtseize, Meddling Mage, and Tropical
he's got
Island.
To send it back because of the trop. So, hey, there is a cost to playing that card, and it's forcing Derrick Sheets to mulligan here.
If he loses this game, this could be the second game of this match that Tropical Island has cost him a game.
It's funny because it's called Esper Deathblade mostly because of Deathrite Shaman. And I get to play a trop. I can search for it with all my lands, be able to gain a little bit of life.
What's the big deal? Play one Tropical Island to get some life. I'm going to activate with this every once in a while. I want to kind of gain life. I got to remove some creatures every once in a while. What's the big deal?
It's certainly starting to be a big deal. It's
starting to be a real big deal.
Yeah. It might as well just be a basic item, a high percentage of the time. But either way, Sheets is going to have to send it back here.
Yeah, that is the most annoying $300 card in existence right now.
You're telling me. Well, Jesse Hafner's like his.
Yeah.
He's happy with his.
It's certainly good in some decks. Yeah. So Derrick Sheets here getting a little unlucky with that Tropical Island. Let's see if he's happy with his 6-card hand.
That was a fast keep.
Fast keep.
It's got a Flusterstorm, and I keep 2.
Yeah, Flusterstorm, Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah. How about Thoughtseize too? You forgot about that.
Wow, that is a great 6-card hand.
Ooh, okay. So you see the Empty the Warrens, along with a Lion's Eye Diamond, an Infernal Tutor, and Ad Nauseam, and a couple of lands. This hand is interesting.
So yeah, really interesting hand here. Potential to go off on turn 3, but now Thoughtseize is going to turn that into a likely turn 4, turn 5 hand. Let's see what happens here. Obviously, Ad Nauseam, probably the card that you want to get rid of, but Empty the Warren's also very problematic, particularly because Wilson can just draw a couple of storm spells. But it looks like he's going to take the Lion's Eye Diamond. which obviously works really well with Infernal Tutor.
So that one might be the most powerful card in his hand. You know, the other cards are all the, you know, the payoffs. Lion's Eye Diamond helps you get to the payoff. There's a Ponder off the top. You know, play an island first before pondering. So let's take a look at 3 cards here, shall we? It's a Duress, there's a Lotus Petal, and that is a Gataxian Probe.
So yeah, if you're Wilson Hunter, I think you're probably okay with those 3 cards. I mean, you have a Duress spell, you have a Gataxian Probe to get more information, and then you have a Lotus Petal as well, so that further gets you a little more mana.
Looks like, I'm going to see if he's going to cast Gataxian Probe now, and he was going to. Here comes the grip. There's a Vendilion Click, a Deathrite Shaman, a Flusterstorm, a Wasteland, and a copy of Flooded Strand. So yeah, that hand's good. Just drawing his 8 cards, but he's got so many after sideboard and ways to find them.
So Gataxian Probe, he does have a Duress on top of his library, so he can deal with the Flusterstorm that way. And it looks like he's going to sacrifice that because he doesn't want to draw the Lotus Petal.
Yeah.
Plus, he can actually cast Duress this turn if he chooses. Play around any potential brainstorms that are drawn by Derrick.
Yeah, he could go he could of course hide the Flusterstorm if he drew a Brainstorm. So gonna take the opportunity right now, it looks like, to get this Flusterstorm out of Sheets' hand.
Yeah, given Wilson's hand, I think he just needs to get rid of the Flusterstorm as soon as possible. You don't want to risk having it hidden by a Brainstorm.
Yep, there's Duress. Drops the hand down. There goes the Flusterstorm. We know the 4 cards. There's a Click, a Deathrite Shaman, a couple of lands. Sheets will draw a card. It's a Marsh Flats.
Yeah, so Click a really good draw. Click a really good card for Derrick. Fries in pressure and is able to interact with Wilson's hand.
Hunter will take a draw step. Looks like it may have been a Cabal Ritual.
Cabal Ritual, great draw there for him.
He held that one a little close to the chest, but that may have been a Cabal Ritual.
So he has 5 cards in his graveyard. I believe he might have another sack land, so that'll get him to 6. Unfortunately, he does not have Threshold. So, oh no, he doesn't even have a sack land, so.
I was thinking this might be a situation where he just has to cast Infernal Tutor, revealing Cabal Ritual to get another Cabal Ritual. I think there's a chance of that here.
I was going to say that's probably the best play, given the fact that he knows he's going to have to face a Vendilion Click. Might as well get rid of that Infernal Tutor now. It's better to get it in your graveyard as opposed to putting it on the bottom of your library because of Past in Flames, and you already have a Volcanic Island. You don't have to play that yet because of Wasteland, which you know is in Derrick's hand.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting play, but I think it's the play that he has to make, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He does reveal the Cabal Ritual over to Sheets, and now he's going to go a diggin', get a Cabal Ritual.
Yes, and this makes it very difficult for Derrick because Derrick does have a Vendilion Click, but it's hard. What do you take? Because you have Empty the Warrens, plus you also have
Ad Nauseam.
an Ad Nauseam. So Ad Nauseam is probably the card you have to take, but at the same time, you might just lose to an Empty the Warrens. So. And
that leads to other problems, too. I mean, because you do get to draw a mystery card off the Vendilion Click, he could run himself into something awesome.
Yeah. So Wilson has that Volcanic Island. Unfortunately, he probably isn't going to play it this turn because he knows that Derrick has a Wasteland, so he needs to hold on to it for 1 turn. Derrick draws yet another land, so still just with a Wasteland, 2 other lands, sack lands, and a Vendilion Click.
You're going to play Marsh Flats, just pass the turn back. Now, the big question here, too, is when does Sheets want to fire off the Vendilion Click? Do you do it in response to both the rituals, because you know he has both of them? He also, Sheets knows the 4 cards over there for Wilson Hunter. 1 card is a mystery. He knows about the Ad Nauseam and the Empty the Warrens.
Yeah.
Those aren't a surprise.
He knows about Ad Nauseam, he knows about Empty Warrens, and he knows about both Cabal Rituals. So basically, he knows about 1 mystery card, which, unfortunately for Wilson, was just a land. So let's see here. If he leads with the Cabal Ritual, and then he casts the second one, he will get 5 mana. And then if Derrick responds by Vendilion clicking, he could probably just take the Ad Nauseam there, and then Empty the Warrens would just be a storm count of 1, 2, 3, 4. So he'll get 8 tokens, which is actually not that bad for Derrick because he has a click to block, plus he has a Deathrite Shaman that can kind of just block and kill. He does that Tropical Island isn't in play, but he will be able to find it if he wants to.
We were bashing the Tropical Island.
We were bashing.
I don't remember that. Someone delete the tape. That didn't happen. Is he gonna go clicking now?
Yeah, I think if you're Derrick, I don't think you have to click just yet. There's no reason to.
Okay. Mighty interesting.
And now you're going to have to get rid of the
Oh,
ad nauseam.
yeah. Okay, I see what he's doing.
Oh, okay. But that's so he's still so he's going to remove threshold.
Yep. So he goes to 3. So what's going to happen here is the Cabal Ritual is going to, the first one, he gave him 3 mana. So 3 minus 2 is 1 plus 3 is 4.
Yeah, he still will be able to cast ad nauseum this turn, though, by playing a land.
You know what? Let's do this. Let's buckle up. Let's go. Now, he's played his land for the turn, so he's going to have to run into some Lotus Petals and Ritual Effects. She shrugs her shoulders and he says, let's go, big guy. You want to do it for it all? He's at 15. Let's make it 14. Still 14. Still 14.
Ooh,
let's make it 10.
Thankfully, he's not going to hit any more ad nauseums.
9 from the Dark Ritual. These are good cards he has so far. Flooded Strand. So, okay.
There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
He's getting into it now.
Now he's getting excited.
There's the Lion's Eye Diamond. Those gears are turning. Still,
wow,
that's big
another
too.
good one.
Just a land, still at 9.
Yeah, he already played a land this turn.
9 minus 2 is 7. What can he do with that? Again, he's already played his land this turn. If he plays a Lotus Petal and sacrifices it, that's going to give him Threshold for the Cabal Ritual. Keep in mind, at home, there is no mana floating, but he's found a couple Lotus Petals and an LED. He's also got that Past in Flames.
Yeah, and this is all due to the fact that Derrick decided to try to remove Threshold as opposed to just casting Click and getting rid of the ad nauseum.
Let's not forget, Sheets knew those cards were in his hand, the Empty the Warrens and the ad nauseum. Now you see Wilson Hunter going through his graveyard. I'm at 7. Is this enough to do what I want to do? If I play 2 Lotus Petals, that adds to my Storm count. That'll give me mana. I can play an LED. I can cast a Cabal Ritual, do this thing with Past in Flames. Can I continue to go off? He's going to take these cards. He is happy. And he does not believe that Sheets has anything in his hand to be scared of. So Wilson Hunter's going to pick up a bunch of cards from ad nauseum, stabilizing its 7 life.
Yeah, given the way this game progressed, I think Wilson knows Derrick's on nothing right now.
Lotus Petal, number 1 and number 2. It's going to add up the Storm count a little bit. I've got a feeling the Storm count's going to be high enough we don't even have to keep track. Lion's Eye Diamond comes in now as well.
Yeah, he's got so many ritual effects in his hand too. Cabal Ritual now definitely has Threshold.
He's going to cast a Dark Ritual. That's going to give him 3 mana.
Looks like, yeah, he's got that, the Past in Flames as well. So
3 minus 1 is 2, plus 5 is 6 black mana.
And he does have an Infernal Tutor in his graveyard that he cast earlier.
That he cast earlier in the game to get the Cabal Ritual. So 6 black now because of Threshold. Sheets at the mercy here of Wilson Hunter, hoping that he somehow makes a mistake. Hunter going to sacrifice a Lotus Petal. Likely going to be for red mana. And you see a man who I think knows his beat there on the left, thinking, I think I've made an error. Past in Flames is going to be placed onto the stack. He's going to use that red. He's going to bust the Lion's Eye Diamond response, discard all of those cards. Derrick Sheets says, let me take a little look-ski-poo at this graveyard. Just how dead am I?
yeah, this is exactly what Derrick was afraid of. A really good ad nauseum. I mean, he knew it was coming. It was exactly like you said, because he knew that both ad nauseum and Empty the Warrens were in the hand from turn 1 because of that Thoughtseize.
So Past in Flames is going to resolve. Again, because of the crack in the Lion's Eye Diamond, there's going to be 6 mana total. We know he's got 3 black over there. Lion's Eye Diamond, we can figure out what color he broke it for. But it looks like he's going to fire off a Duress here. It's going to leave him with 5 mana now. If he does opt to cast Duress. I think he wants to make sure that the coast is clear. And he's got 3 red, 3 black in his pool, so you can make it 2 black and 3 red if he does cast this Duress right now. He wants to see Sheets' hand. Sheets will show him 2 lands and a Vendilion Click. Quickly turn it over.
Yeah, he's still got plenty of ritual effects left to get more mana, and then he just needs to cast the Infernal Tutor to find Tendrils.
That's all it's going to take here. So it looks like we're going to see some more spells in just a second. You see him go quickly to his graveyard. Cabal Ritual with Threshold. Now a Dark Ritual. Now an Infernal Tutor. Do you mind if I search my deck very quickly?
Might as well cast Empty the Warrens too.
Yeah, just really humiliate him.
Flawless victory.
Yeah. I have 300 goblins, and you take 300 damage.
So as long as he didn't board out the Tendrils of Agony.
There it is. He had to go through his deck twice, but there's a Tendrils of Agony, Storm Trigger. That's going to do it. We're going on to game number 5 here between Derrick Sheets and Wilson Hunter.
Yeah, and the key there was not casting, choosing to try to remove a card in Wilson's graveyard to remove Threshold, hoping that that would be enough. And, you know, it's not crazy for Derrick to think that maybe Wilson doesn't have 5 mana now, because again, Wilson didn't play a land the prior turn. We knew it was because it was a volcanic island. He didn't want to play into Wasteland, but Derrick didn't know that. So Derrick might have thought, okay, he doesn't have another land in his hand, and maybe if he just didn't draw a land that turn, then he might not get to 5 mana. So I know he has Empty. I know he has Ad Nauseam. So maybe I could just strand those cards in his hand. Yep. So maybe that was his logic. But again, if he has another ritual effect, you're dead. And if he does have a land, you're dead too. So I think you have to go for the click there. And again, he could still end up casting Empty the Warrens, but you don't know that he has a volcanic island in his hand. Like, you don't know that he has a red card, a red land. So if he doesn't have a red land, he can't cast Empty. And if he does have the red land, he casts Empty the Warrens, but at least it's only for 8.
And you can,
so with a Death Ray and a Click and Play, I actually think you can manage that. You just need to draw another creature over the course of like the next 3 turns.
So he goes Ritual, you cast a Click, then he casts Empty. Yeah, so it'll be for 8. So let's talk about something here. As Wilson Hunter is going to use the restroom really quick and get ready for game number 5. So of course, when he does come back, we'll bring him back down there and see who's going to win here to play against Jesse Hefner in the finals. You saw Sheets after the game, or at least mid-game, when Wilson Hunter was going off. We saw a little of this action, and he's a little bit frustrated with what happened there. Was I supposed to remove a card? I was supposed to cast him, he didn't click. I knew the card's in his hand, and he beat me anyway, even though I had a V-click. There's obviously, I don't want to say he's on tilt, but there's obviously some things going through his head right now as far as, okay, how did I throw this game away, which I think I was in really good shape in. He's got one game to win before he moves on to the finals. He's sideboarded heavily. He's got a lot of good cards in his deck. We could also go as far to say things are favorable for him right now in this particular matchup after sideboard. He's got to kind of recompose himself a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can be a little tilting when you lose a game like that, because it basically came down to you choosing wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're making massive punts. You're just guessing. You're in these situations where if you guess A and you're right, you're great. But if you guess B and you're wrong, that's it. So it's a lot of times it comes down to these guessing situations where, you know, same thing in the prior game. He guessed, okay, I think Flusterstorm should counter Dark Ritual. That's the card I should counter. It ended up being correct for him. Yeah. This game, he thought maybe my right play is to remove a card from Threshold as opposed to casting Vanilla Click. So that's sort of the power of Storm, is that they put so much pressure on you to make the correct decision, because there's very little room for mistake. If you make the wrong decision, you're dead. It's not like you just lose a couple of cards or you get 2 for 1 or something. You're just straight up dead. So it can be a little tilting because you're constantly forced to just guess correctly every single time. But, you know, I think, you know, he's been playing Legacy pretty for all day yesterday, all day on Friday, and that's what Legacy is. It's just all about decision making, making sure you make less mistakes than your opponent. So even though you might be a little frustrated right now, I think if you put it in perspective, you just made one wrong decision. You're on to game 5. You still have a good sideboard plan against him. You know, we saw him very confidently. He didn't even look at his opponent's deck list. He's like, no, I know what I'm doing. So, and he still has to feel like pretty good against himself, because that was a mulligan game too. Sure. So I think he might be a little frustrated, but I think he's going to be able to compose himself.
On the other side of things, for Wilson Hunter, maybe you feel like you may have stole one there. And, you know, maybe playing with a little bit of house money here for game number 5, just kind of free and easy. You know, obviously he's stepping away from the table right now, maybe to recompose himself before he comes back for what's obviously a very important game 5 for both of these players, as though whoever does win is going to be playing Jesse Hefner in the finals, and the winner of that, of course, wins $10,000, their likeness on a card, and an invite to the Star City Games Players Championship at the end of the year in Roanoke. You know, if you're Wilson Hunter, just kind of free and easy and just hoping for the best in game 5, which again, the sideboarded games, they look real hard.
Yeah, if I'm Wilson Hunter, there's no way I go to the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
I definitely hold it in. That's like calling timeout when a team is on a run.
Okay.
When your own team is on the run.
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
if I sense he's getting a little tilted, I don't care if my bladder is about to explode.
Yeah.
I am sitting there.
Quick
and I'm like,
shuffle,
let's go. Let's go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, make the right.
Yeah, sure.
You got to put the pressure on him. If you think that he might be tilted, yeah, you definitely like kind of play into that a little bit.
Yeah.
If I sense he's a little frustrated, I might even start talking like, wow, tough call, man. I know you had a couple decisions to make there. Ooh, you know, you just, and it's not about like trash talking. It's just about making conversation,
Sure.
you know? And if you get the sense that your opponent might be a little tilted or frustrated, it certainly could force them to keep maybe a bad hand in the next game. I've seen that plenty of times where people get a little frustrated and they'll keep bad hands. They won't be as aggressive with their mulliganing. They'll kind of veer away from their strategy, all because they were a little frustrated from the prior game.
I have seen many a player, you know, and making a deep run into a pro tour who's very experienced. You know, maybe they lose a game and they felt they should have won, and they ask the judge if they can step away from the table for a minute, take a deep breath, get a glass of water, something like that, just recompose themselves, especially when you're in a high pressure, high leverage situation.
Yeah.
Where you obviously want to win very, very badly and keep moving on in your tournament.
Yeah, so looks like both players are shuffling up here, and again, I think Derrick's probably going to be able to compose himself, get ready, just because he does have such a good plan for this deck after board. We saw it games 2 and 3. His sideboard cards proved to be so powerful. So looks like he definitely is going to be prepared for this one. And it looks like Wilson might have had to go to the bathroom again.
Gone.
Maybe he
can't take it anymore.
He feels like Derrick is a little too stressed out, so he wants to give him even more time to get composed.
He's asking a judge question really quickly here, but at Beagle194 chimes in on Twitter that he believes the correct play there was removing the Infernal Tutor, not the Ritual with the Deathrite Shaman. And he actually kind of think about it, looking back on the game. I wouldn't be too surprised if that's actually true. That wouldn't surprise me if he removes the Infernal Tutor. We're looking at a wildly different game. You know?
It's a wildly different game. So definitely, there's so many decisions that you have to make, both if you're Wilson and you're Derrick, which is kind of the cool thing when you watch Storm in action. And one of the reasons I loved watching Adam Prozac play his Storm deck back in the day, because not only was he very proficient with the deck, but there were so many different interactions. And I'd actually ask him questions after matches, just because there's so many decisions that you have to make throughout the course of that match. Not just about your own lines, but about what potential cards that you have to worry about from your opponent.
Wilson Hunter is back. He looks like he may be ready. Derrick Sheet's going to take one more look, you know. We saw after game 3, he was handed the deck list and he said, get that thing away from me. I don't need anything. Now, maybe going back to the drawing board, potentially second-guessing himself a little bit. We do know that he has access to a detention sphere throughout his 75. He did see Wilson Hunter leave in Empty the Warren, so maybe he brought that back in. Not quite sure what the change is going to be here, but you've got a player on the left who, I don't want to say is tilted, but he's thinking about it. He is thinking about it over there. What happened?
He's definitely thinking about it. And from Wilson's side, I have to say this is the second time I've watched him on camera, and both times I felt like some poor sideboarding decisions have cost him games. And yesterday against BBD, he decided to board out his Empty the Warrens. That ended up costing him a game. In this match, not sure if he boarded into Massacre or not, but definitely feel like it's one of those cards that is very, very, in both games, even the last game, despite the fact that he won, Massacre still would have been a fine card there.
Yep.
So I feel like Massacre is definitely a card he wants in this matchup. And, you know, both times, I think that maybe he really needs to re-examine how he sideboards for certain matchups.
You know, it's kind of interesting when you think about sideboarded games and how a lot of people, when they're play testing, things of that nature, they play a lot of game 1s and a lot of sideboarded games. Oftentimes, you know, when you're playing in just a match of Magic, it's 2 out of 3, not 3 out of 5. There's a lot of going back and forth to the drawing board. When you're playing a best 3 out of 5 matchup, you know, you think your opponent may sideboard one way, they may sideboard the other, and it's always worth it to at least take a look and examine things and potentially reconsider your options.
Yeah, because it's 5 games, it almost feels like you're testing. You know? You're constantly testing, and hopefully by game 5, you have it figured out.
Yeah.
So Derrick Sheets, because he lost the last game, he's going to be on the play in this critical game 5 here. And he's going to have to send it back here. So fortunately, Derrick Sheets is going to go to 6. Wilson Hunter, he is comfortable with his opening 7.
Hey, this is a deck that can mulligan aggressively quite well. Again, he has upwards of 11 cards to sideboard in this matchup. Rest in peace. He has Sword of Feast and Famine, Meddling Mages, Flusterstorms. He's got certain cards that he's looking for, and each one of those cards that he's looking for all have a high impact. We can't forget that. The sideboard cards that he's looking to find are just fantastic.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why he can afford to mulligan aggressively. Like you said, they're so high impactful. So it's like if I have 6 cards, but one of them is a Meddling Mage or like a Flusterstorm, that might be good enough. Obviously, Wilson has discard to kind of combat that. But at the same time, if you're Derrick, you just can't keep hands of like Deathrite Stoneforge land.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Derrick here, he's going to open up with his 6 cards, and he's going to see what do we got here. I see a Jace. I see some lands.
I see a furrowed brow. That's what I see. All right, I see a Deathrite Shaman.
So Deathrite Shaman, we could see a turn 3 Jace. That's not ideal in this matchup. It's fine, but it's not as good as it is against certain other decks.
Wilson Hunter, taking a look at his cards, it doesn't look like it's a turn 1 kill, so there's that.
Yeah, so Derrick can breathe a sigh of relief here. It looks like he has a Chain of Vapor, so he has an answer to a potential Rest in Peace or a Meddling Mage.
MTG Kobe mentioning that much like exiling cantrips is correct, same with Infernal Tutor with Deathrite Shaman. So we had talked in a previous game about how exiling cards like Ponder and Brainstorm and Deathrite Shaman is appropriate and not the rituals. You see a Zealous Persecution actually the draw here for Sheets, so he brought that in to combat the old Empty the Warrens plan, but also that can add to his clock, maybe kill Wilson Hunter out of nowhere. We'll see how that lines up.
Yeah, so pretty good mulligan here for Derrick. Not only does he have a Jace, but he has a Vendilion Click as well. So turn 3 Jace, pretty good when it's preceded by a Vendilion Click to kind of make sure that you're not going to lose the following turn.
Yeah. Sacrificing a Misty Rainforest is what Hunter's going to do. 19 is where he goes. We'll see exactly what land he wants to search for. Again, Sheets does have 2 copies of Wasteland in his deck. Not a huge roll, but he has drawn it a couple times in this 5-game match. So we'll see if it's going to be basic or non-basic, and it will be non-basic here from Hunter. See if he's got a Brainstorm or something else to cast on the end of turn, or we'll see exactly how he wants to progress here.
Yeah, Derrick has, I believe, only 1 copy of Vendilion Click, or 2 after board. And it looks like he's going to Chain of Vapor at the end of Wilson's turn to Deathrite Shaman. So very interesting play here from Wilson. This is going to be a tough spot for Derrick, because now it basically means he's going to have to do a main phase Vendilion Click, or a Vendilion Click on his turn, rather.
Yeah, I think this is something that actually Wilson Hunter is using just to get some sort of movement here from Sheets. And it looks like we are going to get some movement from Sheets. There is 3 mana, remove 1 Deathrite Shaman. This is Vendilion Click. Sheets wants to say, what the heck is going on over here? How good is your hand?
Okay, so we see a hand of Lion's Eye Diamond, Past in Flames, Dark Ritual, Infernal Tutor, and 2 lands. So looks like Lion's Eye Diamond might be the card that you have to take here. Infernal Tutor, not bad either, but...
See, this is a situation where it really shows how proficient you are both with Storm and how comfortable you are playing against Storm.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in this situation, I'm looking at a Jace, I know my Deathrite Shaman is going to come back to my hand. I'm not terribly sure what card I'm supposed to take in this situation. I know Lion's Eye Diamond is powerful. I know Infernal Tutor is how you win.
Yeah, it might be Infernal Tutor. Yeah, it is Infernal Tutor. So Infernal Tutor just... because even if you do take the Lion's Eye Diamond, he has another Ritual effect plus a Past in Flames in play. So I think you just might have to take the Infernal Tutor there.
I suppose, you make the argument, okay, well, if he draws another Lion's Eye Diamond, then I die. So this forces Hunter maybe to draw an Infernal Tutor to get the job done. But we'll see how it goes. As Vendilion Click has resolved, Hunter will draw a card from that. This is a copy of Grim Tutor.
Wow, so a good draw there for Wilson.
He's going to
He's
follow
able
that
to
up.
find another Infernal Tutor if he wants.
Okay, this is a Gitaxian Probe that he's drawn for the turn.
Taxian Probe drops him to 17.
Jace, Deathrite. You've got a Bayou there. I believe 1 mystery card hanging out for Sheets.
So with Grim Tutor, wow, Grim Tutor it'd be really great if he had a Massacre in his main deck. But yeah, Gitaxian Probe is going to resolve. Let's see what he draws for the turn. It is another Gitaxian Probe, it looks like. So he has Lion's Eye Diamond, Past in Flames, so he's going to cast another.
The other card
probe.
is Zealous Persecution from earlier.
That good old Zealous Persecution, yes. So now he knows he can't win with Empty the Warrens currently.
Blue Delta the draw. This is going to get this could get ugly.
Yeah, so he could actually. Yeah, he has Lion's Eye Diamond. No, he doesn't have Lion's Eye Diamond. He's Dark Ritual.
No, he picked up. He has an Lion's Eye Diamond.
Oh, that's right. The
earlier.
Infernal
Yeah, the
Tutor was
Infernal
taken.
Tutor's
That's
gone.
right. Sorry. So he has Infernal Tutor. He has a Dark Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, Grim Tutor, and he can play a land this turn. So he also has that Pass in Flames as well. Let's see what he wants to do here. Grim Tutor, a really good draw for him. Gives him a lot more options. Try to go off this turn if he wants to, or maybe he wants to try to buy himself another turn. Again, Derrick doesn't really have that much to work with. If Derrick can just draw a land or a non-interactive spell, Wilson could be a little better off going off next turn. He'll have another land in play.
Yeah, I don't think this is a situation where he has to rush. I mean, obviously, it's really scary if Sheets ends up drawing one of his sideboarded cards or a Force of Will or something of that nature, but I don't think this is a situation where he can afford to rush. I mean, he'd have to Dark Ritual to cast Grim Tutor to even get the ball rolling. Again, it doesn't mean that he can't go off, but I'm just saying it seems like a situation where he can afford to just play a land, pass the turn, and move forward. But
Yeah.
Hunter will obviously go through the permutations here and figure out exactly what is appropriate as he plays a Flooded Strand. Sees the cards that he has to contend with over there in Sheets' hand. None of those are all that impressive. Jace is a huge role player in this matchup. Zealous Persecution just shuts off the Empty the Warrens. Sheets draws a Rest in Peace.
What a good draw from Derrick. So, yeah, I don't think Wilson, it would have been really hard for Wilson to try to go off that turn. So he really was hoping Derrick would not draw something too hateful. But Rest in Peace is the perfect draw for Derrick here.
It may have just gotten harder as Sheets is going to play a Deathrite Shaman. He has to be aware of, okay, if I play Rest in Peace, that's going to get turned off. But hey, that's okay, I think. Yeah, and you see he's just like, sure. I guess I'm just going to cast him. My Deathrite Shaman's just a lowly squire now, but it's better than nothing.
Yep, so Wilson now has to face off against one of Derrick's more powerful sideboard cards in Rest in Peace. He's got that Pass in Flames in his hand. Still has outs because obviously... there's that Empty the Warrens.
Yeah, that one's not so good.
Oh, that Zealous Persecution.
That's a one of, but it is not. It is nice.
So Rest in Peace doing some serious work here. Shuts off the Pass in Flames path.
Yeah,
Derrick does have
just got so much harder.
Yeah, he has the Grim Harvest, so he could find an Abrupt Decay to deal with the Rest in Peace. So not the worst thing in the world. And Wilson's at 12. So he's got a couple of turns to set things up. Grim Harvest does cost life to actually get cast, so he's probably going to be taking, like, I believe 5 maybe. Or Grim Tutor, rather. So Grim Tutor, he might have to actually just cast Grim Tutor to find an answer to Rest in Peace.
Going to start by playing a Polluted Delta and just passing the turn back. So she's just going to quickly untap. He'll take a draw. It's a Stoneforge Mystic. That one's not going to play a huge role in this game. Of course, he does have Batterskull and Sword of Feast and Famine as far as cards are concerned to search up. Sheets wants to figure out how he wants to attack first. It'd be easy to just serve in here for 4 and move forward. Don't know if that's exactly what he's going to do. Again, Deathrite Shaman not going to really have any text at this point because Rest in Peace is in play. And then you have Vendilion Click. It's just a 3/1 flyer, and its effect has already been kind of put onto this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure you have to attack with Deathrite Shaman here because Wilson does have 2 sack lands in play, so...
Yeah, I mean, the issue there is obviously Rest in Peace is in play, so, you know, it's Deathrite Shaman at this particular moment is just a 1/2.
No, but the key is if Wilson does actually have an Abrupt Decay or something to kill the Rest in Peace, then your Deathrite Shaman gets turned on again, so you can use the ability to remove spells then.
Okay, sure.
So that's sort of the game.
Gotcha.
And again, the only reason you'd attack with it is to kind of give yourself a 3-turn clock. But either way, because of the sack lands, it's going to be the same anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'd probably just hold back Deathrite Shaman on the chance that Wilson does draw an Abrupt Decay or something.
Yeah, I guess if he leaves Deathrite Shaman back, you attack for 3, put him to 9. And then I guess he has to use one of those fetch lands eventually.
Like,
to
he has to
actually
use
have
it
do
eventually.
something. Yeah, sure.
And then he still has the Zealous Persecution in his hand, and he's likely going to commit a Stoneforge Mystic into play this turn. So
if he attacks here for 4, which he does, he goes down to 8. If he plays Stoneforge Mystic, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, so that's
We're just
exactly
looking at lethal,
8.
yeah.
That's exactly 8. Because of that Zealous Persecution.
Looks like Sheets is going to go get Sword of Feast and Famine this go around. Last time he got Batter Skull, but Batter Skull's a little too slow for this game. At least we think. Okay, there's the sword. So now this forces Hunt. Now, Sheets' shields are down. He doesn't have anything. The problem here for Hunter is that he doesn't have anything either.
Well, if he has Massacre, if he could find the Massacre, it would be fantastic.
Well, all right, he has Grim Tutor in his hand, so we'd have to. All right, so we'd have to sack 2 fetches. He'd go down to 6. Grim Tutor puts him down to 4. Wow, I am dying to know if he has Massacre in his deck.
He can't. There's no way
he hasn't gone back to his sideboard. What?
Yeah, there's no way he has Massacre. So, and he knows about the Zealous Persecution because of the Cataxian Probe. So he knows that he's dead if he just passes back.
Yeah.
So
I mean, unless he's unfamiliar with Zealous Persecution, because in his mind, he might be thinking, oh, it's just -1/-1 after the Warren's Gone. Because you could get a little close-minded on that, so you might forget that it is +1/+1 to all the Sheets' creatures. Okay. I was going to agree with you. I don't think he has Massacre. Because, if he had Massacre, he would. I mean, if I'm him, I'm just, sorry, attack this fetch land, go get it, and kill all your stuff, and you have a Jace and a Zealous Persecution, and I think I can still win. He's going to get a basic island. That's not a black mana.
Yeah, so he doesn't even have double black yet to use the Grimmer. I think he does have a ritual, but still, you'd figure if he has the Massacre, you're likely just casting Grim Tutor.
So what you're saying is if you were Wilson Hunter, you would have Massacre in your deck.
Yes. Well, when we first examined the matchup, we didn't really think about Massacre, but after game 2, I was like, wow, Massacre would be really good. So by game 5, he should have figured out that Massacre is probably pretty good in this matchup.
He's rocking and rolling here. What's about to happen? All right, okay, so he plays the Lion's Eye Diamond. That's spell number 1. Now he's going to cast Dark Ritual. That's spell number 2.
Yeah, Derrick's at 19, so...
Grim Tutor, is he going to hold priority maybe? This is spell number 3.
Might be ad nauseum, but at 7, that's going to be risky. And he's going to bust this in response. I think this is an ad nauseum also. Because he played Dark Ritual and then he cast Grim Tutor, so no mana floating. So now by busting LED with Grim Tutor on the stack, he has 3 mana floating, obviously. I presume it's going to be black mana. And then he's got the 2 islands to cast it. And he's already played the land for the turn in Polluted Delta. And, oh, man. Oh, my. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like edge of your seat magic, you have come to the right place.
He's at 5 life.
Or 4, right? Grim Tutor is, you have to pay 3 life.
So
right?
yeah, I think he might be 4. Yeah, we'll make sure that we have it updated for you guys with our spotter there.
And the only mana that he has left available is a Polluted Delta, which will be 1 more life.
See the smile on his face. He's saying, I gotta get real lucky.
Lion's Eye, Infernal Tutor, game.
Paddle, yeah.
Well, we've seen crazier things happen before.
Here we go.
All right.
3.
Oh,
3. Hey, don't get down. It's not over yet. 2. Oh no. Oh no. Dead. Oh, that's it. Derrick Sheets is going to win this match over Wilson Hunter. Deathblade is moving on to the finals to play against Rug Delver. Congratulations to Derrick.
Wow. So despite the fact that there were a diversity of decks in this top 8 that we haven't seen in a while in Legacy, 2 of the Legacy staples and